Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole. On our podcast, we delve into the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
That's right, Nicole. Our podcast is all about exploring those fundamental truths and practices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, Christina, we want to make metaphysical concepts easy to understand and accessible, especially for those who don't have a ton of time to do all the research.
Right? We'll do the research as well as share our experiences and perspectives, hoping to empower you, our listener, to find balance and magic in your day-to-day.
Inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root, let's explore the roots of well-being and self-healing together.
This is The Radical with Christina and Nicole, two metaphysical girls in the material world. Hello, welcome to The Radical. This is Christina.
And this is Nicole.
Today, we are talking about Hallmark Holidays. The first segment, we're going to go down a list that Nicole and I put together, and we're going to discuss some of the histories, mysteries, I love a good rhyme, and where these holidays and when these holidays actually came into existence. And then, of course, we have our message from the universe at the end of today's podcast. I'm drawing from Kim Cran's The Wild Unknown Tarot. I've got 2 cards ready for us. So let's start all the way at the top. What do we mean by Hallmark Holiday? Have you heard that term before, Nicole?
I have heard it quite a bit.
I don't remember where I heard it, but as soon as Nicole and I were chatting about this podcast gelling together in our mind, I was like, Hallmark Holidays. That's what we need to call it. That's what we need to talk about. And the term Hallmark Holiday has been used in this sense since the 1980s. And it's based on the name of a greeting card company called Hallmark. Did you grow up with Hallmark stores?
Yes.
Okay. I did too. It was one of my favorite stores growing up. They had so much stuff that I like to look at inside their stores. My favorite one was in a little shopping plaza and next door to a Carvel ice cream. Did you have Carvel where you grew up?
I think so.
Yeah. It
I
was
think
one of
they
my
made
favorite.
Yeah. I remember getting cookie ice cream cakes from there, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's a company known for offering greeting cards for many different occasions. And a Hallmark holiday is a holiday that is primarily celebrated for commercial reasons rather than to commemorate a significant event. And the term is often used to describe holidays that are not based on cultural, religious observances and have a big focus on gift giving or giving things to other people. But it's all based on commercialism and expectations.
But has it always been that way? So I put together a brief history of greeting cards.
Oh.
Greeting cards, yeah. Greeting cards actually have ancient origins. The ancient Egyptians sent greeting cards on papyrus scrolls, and the ancient Chinese also sent messages of goodwill to each other.
Oh.
We're going to fast forward to the 1400s in Europe. This is about when the more modern day greeting card began to circulate. We started to see an increase in cards being given out around Valentine's Day, interestingly enough. But what's important to note here is that these were handmade paper cards.
Oh, I love a handmade card.
The printing press was invented around 1440. By the year 1500, there were over 1,000 printing shops producing millions of books. That just blew my mind in the 1500s. We
Wow.
are like really starting to mass produce and mass print items. As a result, overall, we saw a pretty steady expansion of printing technology from the 1400s to the 1800s.
Can you imagine if you were alive during that time and you're just like walking down the street and there's just all this material available to you? You could be reading about the latest scientific discoveries. You could be reading
Mm-hmm.
about the social lives of, political
Yeah.
figures or, the monarchy in whatever place that you lived in, and just like it opened up people's worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yes. In the 1700s, literacy rates really started to increase in the middle class. And that's when the libraries started uh, opening their doors.
Mm-hmm.
People were borrowing books. Printing got kind of an upgrade in the 1800s. The presses became steam powered. This made production cheaper and faster. The outputs were unprecedented at this time. So we're in the 1800s, and in 1840, there was a sort of standardization in England regarding their postal system. And this is where the stamp came from.
Uh-oh,
So
time to put things
England,
in the mail.
yeah, so England in 1840 said it's 1 cent to buy a stamp, mail a letter to anywhere in the country, regardless of distance. So people started sending a lot more letters. 1843, so just 3 years later, this man named Sir Henry Cole, he was struggling with, how am I going to write cards to all my friends? He was kind of like, oh no, I have too many friends and not enough time. What am I going to do? He was more, I think, an upper class man, and this is during the Victorian era. So it was very
Mm-hmm.
customary in this era for people to send holiday cards. It was sort of expected. If you didn't, you were considered rude. And being rude in a society really built on social customs,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
a pretty bad thing to be. You don't want to be
It's
rude.
it's like currency. You're
Mm-hmm.
poor if you have poor manners.
Yes. So Sir Henry Cole is like, oh my gosh, I just know so many people. I have so many acquaintances. He was kind of involved in like art and politics and a bunch of different stuff. So he knew a bunch of people, and he thought, I know what I'm going to do. So he contacted an artist named John Horsley, and together they created the first commercial Christmas card in 1843. John Horsley painted a beautiful picture, and at the very bottom of it, I put a picture in our notes, but we'll post it to social media too. The very first commercial Christmas card, 1843 England.
Is
But
that what
yeah, it
that
was,
is?
yeah, that's what
With
that
the
is.
roses? Oh
It's
my
actually it's
gosh.
actually the top one. So it's
Oh, and that's him and his family.
yeah, so the middle is a sort of color portrait of a family having like a festive meal together, and then on either side of them there's images of helping the poor. And I know Christina's going to kind of delve into some of the customs and traditions during the holiday season, during the Victorian era. I kind of saw that in your notes. So she'll kind of talk
Mm-hmm.
about that more. But that's what we see on this first Christmas card, sort of merriment, family, and charity. So again, this was really a solution to a problem, having too many friends,
Mm-hmm.
too many contacts to reach out to in a society where it was sort of expected that you send a card out of politeness.
Mm-hmm. A handwritten note.
Yes. 32 years later, a Prussian immigrant outside of Boston named Louis Prang created the first Christmas card in this country, the United States. The year's 1875, and by 1881, Louis Prang is printing a reported 5 million Christmas cards a year. And his earliest cards were pretty simple. They were usually like a flower, an animal, some kind of nature design with the words Merry Christmas.
Is that the one with the roses?
Yes.
See, these were probably so decorative and cheery. It made you smile when you got them. See, it's that all this stuff started out as such a good, positive thing.
I know. Let's see. So during this time, so kind of the late 1800s, early 1900s, because cards were gaining, greeting cards were becoming more and more popular, there were things like design contests. People could submit a design and win a cash prize. Cards were
Mm-hmm.
actually reviewed in the newspaper the way that book reviews and movie reviews are in our newspapers today. People collected and saved their cards. There's an
Yeah.
element of cherishing the cards. They were special. And I mean, I wrote down they were considered art because I think they were art.
Yeah.
Um, Part of what the greeting card company started doing as competition between them, increased, they would hire artists. So one of the images in our notes, Christina, and we'll post all three online, but Salvador Dali did a line of greeting cards.
Get
That's
out of
that.
here.
Yeah.
It's
And
the one at the bottom with the blue
yeah,
and the
I loved
butterfly.
it. I saw it. I was like, that is amazing. And they actually had to pull his cards off the shelf because they were too avant garde. People weren't, I don't know,
They didn't get it.
connecting with them. So, modern greeting card era began in 1910 when Hallmark was founded by Joyce Clyde Hall in Kansas City, Missouri. It actually originally was a postcard company. But what Hallmark did was they invented the 4x6 card format, the book format, as they called it.
Oh. Yeah.
And that just catapulted Hallmark's success because people really liked it was kind of the middle ground size between writing a full letter and sending a postcard. You got like a little bit more room to write your message, but you didn't have to write an entire letter. It was
Yes. Yeah.
something in between. So people liked that. And again, with increasing popularity, increasing competition, over the years, the greeting card industry started adding more color to their cards, those kind of messages that come inside the card. They popularized cards for birthdays, anniversaries, Mother's Day. Valentine's Day, Christmas, and Easter were already popular, so they kind of expanded their offerings. They added adornment, so like lace, beads, stuff like that, things we kind of see on the really pricey
Mm-hmm.
cards today. They created cards just for soldiers who were overseas during World War II. After the war, there was an increased demand for greeting cards for birthdays, weddings, and new holidays like Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
During the Great Depression in the 1930s, cards remained popular.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1990s, we saw the introduction of e-cards. We were getting online, we were getting the internet, we had computers. I remember I must have been like 6 or 7 because we were still living in Minnesota and we had a computer, and I can remember we had a program where we could design like our
Yeah.
own birthday invitations. So then
Yeah.
in the 2010s, about, we were able to sort of create our own custom cards online and do a print on demand type card.
Sent my Christmas cards when I was active duty. Oh my gosh, I forgot that and then I remembered it. I was like, "Oh, I remember doing that."
So I'm really wondering when some of these, other holidays became really popular and kind of fell into the Hallmark realm.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about all of them. We're going to talk about some of them to kind of get you, our listeners, thinking about all of these Hallmark holidays, as we're calling them. Um, Starting with New Year on the 1st of January. Now, I get it that it's a calendar new year, right? And it's nice to have a start date that's at the beginning of the year. I love the beginning of the month and the beginning of the year and like the beginning of the week. I'm very much, my brain kind of enjoys setting intentions and setting resolutions that way. But New Year's at the 1st of January, what are we doing? Why are we celebrating? Is it just because we made it through another year? But why did it happen then? And the earliest known record of a New Year festival is about 20,000 BCE in Mesopotamia, where the Babylonians called their new year with the new moon after the vernal equinox. So if you follow any of the earth-based spirituality communities, their New Years are all in different places. The astrological New Year is in the spring. The Wheel of the Year, the earth-based spirituality, it just happened in Samhain at the end of October. But there's lots of different new years or beginnings of cycles that have nothing to do with a date on a calendar. It has to do with the flow of nature. That's why I like the Wheel of the Year, because it's going with the flow of nature. So the date was chosen, the 1st of January, was partly in honor of Janus, the Roman god of beginnings, and the month's namesake, but it really solidified by Pope Gregory the Eighth, created a revised calendar that officially established January 1st as New Year's Day in 1582. 1582. That's kind of new. That's when they were making greeting cards.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
think about what New Year's means. I don't care for the overconsumption and the expectations that can be associated with New Year's. I can't tell you the last time I stayed up till midnight or me and my family went out or did anything, even when I was younger. Well, most of my younger years I was in the military, and that's not a holiday like a bank holiday that you get off. You don't have to work that day or the day before. So it wasn't really a thing for me, but I know it's a thing for a lot of other people. Was it
Mm-hmm.
a thing for you and your family?
It was more so like a thing for me personally when I was younger. I
Mm-hmm.
really, that was probably my favorite holiday for a while.
Really?
Hmm. But you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's the way I see it now is it is a consumption
Yeah.
type holiday, meaning to me, what that means is people are consuming alcohol. It's like a drinking holiday.
Yeah.
Um, and I just choose now to not
Mm-hmm.
engage in that way anymore. Um, so I prefer being at home. To me, it's more of a time to reflect and set resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like watching on TV when they do like the year in review. That seems kind of reflective to me, all the things that happened in the previous 12 months. But yeah, you're not going to catch me, going to a party or going somewhere to like watch the ball
Yeah.
drop. That's just not how I
Yeah.
acknowledge this day anymore.
January 1st. Yeah. The other thing with January 1st, it's just a day in winter. Nothing is
Hmm.
happening there in the natural world. We're in the middle of winter. It's not a new moon. It's not a full moon. It's not an equinox. It's not a solstice. It's just a man made date to end the calendar year.
Hmm.
There's no spirituality behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the overconsumption or the litter that it creates. One
Yeah.
year I was in Hawaii when I was in the military for New Year's, and they lit off, it's part of their culture to light off firecrackers.
Mm.
And it was a big problem because it's an island in the middle Pacific, and all this smoke from the millions of firecrackers that people set off would just cause a haze over the whole
Oh.
island of Oahu for like days afterwards. I don't know if they still do it. I'm sure they still do. But I remember being there during this time and I'm like, this is crazy. Why? Why would you damage your own breathing air to celebrate, in quotation marks, the end of a man-made calendar year?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a good time for resolutions to move forward, budget, that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. But it's not really a anyway. Okay, that's my musings on January 1st as New Year's. There's other New Year's out there that make more sense to me in my head, going with the flow of nature. Valentine's Day, February 14th. It did originate as a Christian feast honoring a martyr named Valentine. The day became associated with romantic love in the 14th and 15th centuries. Again, time back to that time. With notions of courtly love flourishing. And it really came down to the celebration of St. Valentine's Day comes from, or really captured people's imaginations and got people to start expecting stuff on that day, from Chaucer's poetry about Valentine's Day, which was called the Parliament of Fowls. In that, Geoffrey Chaucer writes about having a dream vision portraying birds coming together to choose their mates. So it's actually, he says a note about it being Valentine's Day, but being associated with the martyr of Valentine. So it was actually in the later half of February, much more closer to the springtime than February 14th, where it landed because the Catholic Church put it on that day. Valentine's Day, it turned into something that I don't even recognize in today's culture. it's it it has some negative and some positives. There's pressure to perform, comparison, disappointment, just unmet expectations, loneliness, so many feelings associated with this day, when really, if you want to celebrate, in quotation marks, this day, speak to the person you want to celebrate with and find out what you want to do together.
Oh,
Don't make
yeah.
assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Communicate with one another on this day if you choose to do it. But here's the other thing too, is that don't be mad if somebody else doesn't have any sort of feelings on this day. Talk about it beforehand. don't have expectations. Not
Yeah.
everybody grew up with this holiday at all.
And
I
not
didn't.
everybody wants to participate in it. I mean, my stance is I don't want to go to dinner on that day
Mm-hmm.
because the restaurants are slammed and usually they have a set menu and it's more expensive and it just feels forced to me. It feels um I don't know. I don't enjoy it. It's not my preference to go out on that day. Um I had two thoughts when you were talking. One was about how at school, if you're going to bring Valentines, you have to bring them for everybody.
Right?
So I feel like there was a moment where the decision could have been just don't bring Valentines to school at all. But instead of nipping it, it was, we'll just buy more.
Yes.
Buy
Yes.
3 boxes
Everybody.
of Valentines for all 30 kids in class. Because, they come in boxes of like 10, of course.
Yeah.
So you have to buy more instead of the school just saying, we're not doing this at
And why
all.
are parents on board with these poor parents, man, having to just constantly, because I sure did. I remember my parents buying these Valentines for me and then
Mm-hmm.
me sitting there and writing them for all my classmates and putting them in little decorated shoe boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And then what did we do with all that stuff? Did we burn it or did we put it in the trash can? Because I certainly don't have them today.
Yeah, they definitely
Consumerism.
became trash. And
Consumerism.
yeah, the other thought I had, which directly kind of ties to consumerism, is I think to me, a Hallmark holiday is a holiday where when you walk into like Target or the grocery store or like the pharmacy and like the night of the holiday, right? So like Valentine's Day night, all the stuff is like 80% off.
I know. I
So I
know.
guess that's one of the pros of Valentine's Day is you can go get really cheap chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Oh, fake roses. Oh, the plastic. Oh, the things that we do. For what?
So we don't disappoint somebody else
Who might not even be expecting it.
or want it.
Everybody, talk to your partners, talk to your loved ones. Oh, just. And it's just a day. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
even mean anything. It's
I
just a
know.
day that was appointed by a man from an organized religion saying on this day this happens. It's not
It's
historically accurate and it doesn't mean anything in the natural flow of time or nature.
it kind of just feels like a way to test each other, you know? Like I do hear women because I mostly talk to women about, what their significant other is doing or is not doing.
Yeah.
But there is this, he better. And it's what you said, Christina. It's an opportunity to have clear communication instead of
Mhm.
seeing what they'll do
Yeah. What
and
happens?
and letting it be like a test.
Cuz not everybody grew up the way that you grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Some schools did not give away little Valentines. Some parents did not take each other out and let the kids home with a babysitter on Valentine's Day. That is not a reality. And depending on what commercials you're watching and what TV shows you're watching, you're led
Mm-hmm.
to believe that it is very standard, and it is not. It
Mm-hmm.
is not
The
at
movies
all.
we grew up with, the romantic
Yes.
comedy, narratives that we grew up with. And so yeah, I'm at
Yeah.
0 out of 2, I guess. I don't really participate in either one of these. So
And we're just going down the year here. Like I said, we're not hitting all of them, just the bigger ones. So we're going into Mother's Day. and Father's Day. Mother's Day is in May and Father's Day is in June. So the origins of Mother's Day can be traced back to Greece, where the Titan goddess Rhea was honored in the spring to bring good harvest. Okay, so maybe this is actually tied to a harvest festival. Mother's Day, I think the day, what's the day on the calendar? It's like May 16th or something like that.
I want to say it's like the second Sunday or something like that
Yeah.
in May.
So you can kind of see how it might be this time of honoring the mother, honoring mothers, because it's the springtime when things are growing from seeds and you're very grateful and happy that the flowers are blooming, and then you're hoping that the crops come in. But Anna Jarvis of Philadelphia is credited with starting the modern version of Mother's Day, which began with a memorial service at her late mother's church in 1907. President Woodrow Wilson signed Mother's Day into law, making it a nationwide holiday in the United States. That was in 1914. Sorry if I didn't say it. So it started out possibly as an appreciation of the feminine energy of springtime and growth and seed planting. And then a US president picked a day and then decided it will be on this day. What it's turned into today is idealized motherhood, again, expectations, lack of communication, not telling somebody what you actually want, feeling obligated to do something you don't want to do. It can be painful for those who aren't measuring up to the version of motherhood. But let's like even just take a second to think about people who want to be mothers who aren't, people who have passed that point in their lives. You cannot see me at a grocery store and wish me happy Mother's Day. That is inappropriate to
People do that
do.
to me too.
Because I'm a middle-aged woman, it is inappropriate to assume that you are having the same experience as everybody else around you. So just be mindful. If you want to celebrate with your mother, a maternal figure, a guardian, the parent of your children or children you care about, have a conversation with them. Oh, same thing with fathers. So let's just wrap it right up there. So Sonora Smart Dodd inspired a sermon about Mother's Day, proposed a Father's Day in 1909. The first celebration was held in 1910 and was officially recognized in the United States in 1972. So again, commercialization, buy things, give gifts, or should it be more about acts of service to your guardians or your parents or your paternal figures? And then you could celebrate caregivers, but there's also a lot of fathers with relationships with their children that aren't ideal. So again, don't just look at a middle-aged man or a young man and wish them a happy Father's Day. It is inappropriate. You don't know what journey they're on. You can ask them, you can speak to them, you can communicate. But in my opinion, you cannot assume that everybody is having the same experience as the Hallmark holidays would want you to have.
I
That's my soapbox. that's my soapbox
know,
about that.
and for adult children who have difficult relationships for their parents, I think these holidays are tricky and brings up the question, why am I doing this behavior, which would maybe in this example be sending a card? It's to me a societal expectation that if we do not fulfill, you know, we're bad, we're wrong, we're not a
Yes.
good child, it's
Yes. Yes.
inappropriate, it's rude, we're
It's not
pulling that
polite.
in, right? We're
Yes.
pulling that in from like Victorian England. It's rude, it's not polite.
Yes.
And
Bad
so,
manners.
yes. And so we carry this and we're like, fine, I'll buy the card and send it, or I'll buy the gift so I don't feel bad. So that
And
this
it almost,
person doesn't think I'm
yeah,
bad or wrong or rude
yes,
or
yes,
inconsiderate or, fill in the
yes,
blank.
yes. There's also the gendering of parental roles. There's, um, we talk about equality, we talk about workplace issues. And here's the thing, if you choose to celebrate these days with people in your life, do it in a way that makes sense to both of you without the social contracts that came with these Hallmark holidays from the 1500s, okay? we need to let we need to let that go. Ask your mother or father figure what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just send them some gift basket of a bunch of stuff that might not mean anything. Just so you can check the block on what you feel your social contract is with these two made up holidays.
I think I made that exact note. Are you doing this to like check the box of appropriate
Mm-hmm.
behavior?
Modern Halloween. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna stand on my soapbox long with this one because Halloween was my most favorite holiday growing up. I loved Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about it. We did the podcast on the Wheel of the Year. We know that Halloween's origins can be traced back to the ancient Celts Samhain festival, which is a cross-quarter day between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. It's one of the 8 Sabbats of the Wheel of the Year, and it marks the end of summer and the beginning of the new year on November 1st because it is the last harvest festival. The ground has gone to sleep. That's why it's the end of the year because it's all about agriculture.
I think the only
Um,
thing I'll say about Halloween is now as like an old and boring person, I um I don't know, all the sugar, all the candy.
yeah.
I know I ate it as a child, but
Oh, I loved
with obesity and heart disease being such an issue in this country, again, old, boring me is like, do we really need to be, doing this? But then the other thing is just like the waste. We buy costumes
it. Yeah.
and then where do they go? Do we reuse costumes? Do we donate them? So, just something to keep in mind. I think really at the root of this discussion, our biggest issues, I guess, deal with waste and
Mm-hmm.
consumerism and buying things we don't need while profiting really large and powerful companies.
Yes. Yes. Giving up our energy, our money for something that we might not actually need to do or want to do. And Nicole, you and I just came from a retreat that was held around Samhain, and that was like an adult Samhain experience, Halloween experience, and it was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of very thematic and seasonal activities
Mm-hmm.
with like apples and, just what was found in nature and walking around in the woods. And like that's kind of the way I want to celebrate these
Mm-hmm.
holidays is that if you're going to make something or if you're going to dress up or if you're going to give somebody something, let it be a craft or let it be an experience.
Yeah.
If you're going to go if your children are trick or treating, are you going with them? Are you guys walking together? Is everybody dressed up? It's sort of like how are you experiencing this, or are you just trying to get through it as quick as you can and buying things out of convenience, or
Yeah.
buying things just because it's expected? It's
Mhm.
just, we are in control of how we experience these days and these Hallmark holidays.
Mhm.
And they are full of good memories. They're full of good things. We just need to be aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Modern Thanksgiving. I think we did a note on this, and I was like, is it only in the US? It is very much a US I mean, is this even a holiday? It is. People don't work. Oh
Mhm.
gosh, everybody works on Thanksgiving now. Oh, it's been tied to so much consumerism now. I just remembered Black Friday. Oh my gosh, I am so anti. I am so anti. Oh.
That
Oh,
is beyond the scope of today's podcast. This will be a 3-hour episode.
yes.
I
Yeah.
think Canadians celebrate Thanksgiving also. I think it might be like a
Yeah.
North American holiday.
Okay.
Um,
Well, it
it's
is.
in Canada, it's observed on the second Monday in October, a month earlier than the United States. The holiday in Canada is similar, focusing on gratitude, family gatherings, and a big meal, often with a turkey, stuffing, pumpkin pie. So I think it's US and Canada.
Okay.
But
So know the history. I know when you have young people in your lives and you want to not tell them the whole story of what happened between the Native Americans and the first colonists. So, but be honest about it. And this celebration can be so full of love and community. This is why I think I like Thanksgiving, is because it's actually really about community and gathering. There's not a, I mean, I'm sure people are still spending way too much money on things they really don't need to buy. But Thanksgiving, in my experiences, really have been about getting together with other people. I mean, and a lot of times family.
mhm,
When I was in the military, I went home for Christmas. I went home for Thanksgiving a few times, and then I stopped. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. It was too close to the other holidays. It was too quick a turnaround, and so I spent a lot of Thanksgivings on my own or with a family, or excuse me, or with friends, and it was still just a gathering.
mhm.
That's my impression of Thanksgiving. So be aware of the history. Don't overlook the history of it. Commemorate it somehow. Talk about it somehow. Don't let it be a overlooked fact of where this day came from, because we can't forget about what happened between those two groups of people. And then let it be about people getting together to share an experience.
Yeah, I don't mind the sentiment behind Thanksgiving either. The sentiment being gratitude and community and
Mm-hmm.
sharing. I just it's the whole um vibe of Black Friday, and it seems like each year
I know.
Black Friday becomes, because we have Cyber Monday and Small Business
Yeah.
Saturday, and then
Yeah.
Black Friday, it starts to feel like it starts earlier and earlier each year. And
Yeah.
to me, that's just the pinnacle of the consumer energy,
Yeah.
the acquiring and owning and buying. I don't resonate with that really on any level at all anymore.
Yeah.
Um, Even if it's a good deal, if I don't need it, then it doesn't matter how good of a
Yeah.
deal it is. And then the other thing that I'll just tack on to the end, and I think this applies to Christmas a little bit as well, but I just don't like throwing food away.
Yeah.
So to me, Thanksgiving is beautiful and abundant as long as we're not throwing that food away later. Some
Yeah.
people don't eat leftovers. Some people don't put stuff in their freezer. Some people make way
Oh,
too much and then they're like, oh, well, and they just throw it
they
away.
put in the
And
trash. Yeah.
like I said, I think we can carry that into Christmas a little bit, because Christmas is becoming like a food holiday kind of too.
Yeah.
Um, but that's my big issue with Thanksgiving is I'm not going to
No.
eat, me personally, I'm not going to eat any more than I normally do at a meal. So why am I going to
Yeah.
prepare food in a way that I don't normally prepare food unless I'm having people over?
Yeah.
And even then,
You
I don't need to make 8 servings of something when there's only going to be 4 people.
Yeah.
If you're hosting and you know there's going to be a lot of extra food, tell your guests to bring to go containers so they can help you consume the leftover food. And that way it won't go to waste, or as much of it will not go to waste.
be mindful. Mindful consumption, which is should be the tagline for modern Christmas. Um, the Catholic Church invented Christmas on December 25th in 336 CE. You can look up all the history on that. Go look it up. The information's out there. We've got the history on it. Around that time is the winter solstice on December 21st, which is the shortest day of the year, which is a huge celebration of lights. And, you made it through the winter, light your candles, the Christmas trees, which is bringing in nature into the home, evergreens into the home, as a celebration of the returning of the sun after the shortest day of the year. So were the two put together on purpose for political reasons? You decide. You've got the information. I know what I believe. You decide what you believe. Truly, what kicked off a Christmas, making it bigger than what it actually which was initially a very religious family holiday, was the Victorians. A
Mm-hmm.
Victorian Christmas. That's what started this bigger, more cultural, more commercial uh, movement around Christmas. It used to be family centered, and then it got bigger, and then it became like the Christmas tree. Prince Albert introduced a decorated Christmas tree to Britain. A Christmas dinner became solidified as the roasted turkey, the types of proteins, and then the types of common dinner that was there, that was in the Charles Dickens, The Christmas Carol. That was the other one that kind of solidified that. So all this was Victorian Christmas time. There is an element about charity, wealthy individuals encouraging to donate time and money to lower classes. So that is still kind of hanging around modern Christmas. It does get lost a lot. So look that up. I was kind of surprised to see how specific it was, because I thought it was just kind of like a slow, changing, but it wasn't. There was like a few key moments that made Christmas what it is today, and now it's just rolling through as
Mm-hmm.
this commercial time of year that has already started. We're in the second week of November. It's already happening. It's already started. That
Yeah.
it becomes a theme for about 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it mean to you? Speak to the people you care about on how you want to celebrate it, and what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and have communication. But know that it doesn't have to be anything more than what you want it to be. And if that means that you focus less on the man-made element of it, which is the organized religion element of it, and you want to focus more on the natural side of it, which is the wheel of the year and it being the winter solstice, you can still decorate. That is a very appropriate time to light candles, put up lights, decorate your home. It's so dark and cold. Like, you need some light, and you need some, shifting of energies in your home. But if you can, be mindful about your consumption and about
Mm-hmm.
why you feel compelled to buy things or do things that you don't want to do. We don't have to do these things. We have to let that 1500s Victorian England proper manners thing, proper standing, doing the right thing to be good, all of
Yeah.
that in quotation marks. We've got to let that fall away.
Yeah.
We need to talk to the people we care about and come up with plans that everybody actually wants and make it an experience, not about things.
I agree. And we are closing out this year with a couple of episodes, one or two. We haven't really worked it out entirely yet, but we have more to say in
Oh,
terms
yeah.
of our purchasing power, how to use it. So, this conversation started today, but it's not ending. We're
No.
going to revisit and talk more about our power as the consumer.
Yes. I think we should go. Should we go into message of the universe? I feel like I could say
Yes.
so much more, but you know what? I know I will be standing on my soapbox for the rest of this year after,
Mhm.
the election that happened last week.
Mhm.
We've got all kinds of things we want to talk about with you guys, so more to
Absolutely.
come. So we can go right into our messages. Do you have anything else, Nicole, before we wrap it up?
No, I'm just excited. Before we hit record, we kind of planned those episodes that I alluded
Mhm.
to. So, again, like I said, we'll definitely continue this conversation. It's extremely important now more than ever.
We definitely were talking about the word boycott.
Mhm. Yeah.
uh, Feeling good in our own skins and agency. And what was the other one you said for personal space? Legitimacy? Oh, I can't remember it.
I
Was it
don't know.
agency? No, it was another word. Nicole, we'll remember it when we talk about it. But yes, that is where our heads are. So,
Values.
values.
Was that it?
No, it was something about I'm in this space and I can be here. I
Oh,
don't have to
sovereignty.
minimize sovereignty. That's it. That's it. I don't have to make myself smaller
Mhm.
because of some social contract that I did not sign.
Mhm.
I am rejecting these social contracts. I am rewriting them. Okay. Tarot cards. Message from the universe. I have two cards, my friends, my listeners. So you choose card A or card B. A. Ace of Swords.
Mhm.
This is the root of the powers of air. Truth and mental clarity. When lightning strikes, the whole world seems to light up for 1 second. It's as though you can see everything. And this vision lingers on even through the storm. Such is the power of the Ace of Swords. Your mind will become clear, your thoughts precise. It's a great time to make those decisions you've been putting off. Stay the course, trust yourself, clear thinking.
Mm.
Card B. Oh, Nine of Pentacles. This is Venus in Virgo. Always a welcome card. The Nine of Pentacles is a time to enjoy the many results of your loyalty and hard work. This may be a promotion at work or newfound stability and happiness at home. It's even possible that you'll find yourself enjoying the finer things in life, as luxury and refinement oftentimes accompanies this card. So I see this card as pleasure in your own company, knowing who you are, and a manifestation of what was always yours.
That's powerful.
Yes. Oh, I like those cards. Okay, my friends, Hallmark Holidays. I'm stepping down from my soapbox. So much more to say about all of those, but they will be creeping in all the podcasts for this year and going forward. So listen, think, research, email us if you have any questions, comments, anything else you guys want us to look into. We're here for you. Until next time.
The birth chart is coming up next. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the next several episodes, I'm excited about all of them. So thank you. Thank you, listeners. Have a great day. We will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Radical. The Radical is written and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Listener questions can be emailed to us at theradicalpodnc@gmail.com.
Our Instagram is The Radical Pod.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music.